Welcome my friends, my family, my people, and those yet to know me. This is a stage production for Comical Relief. A book called Okay. So, I Work with People. Written by Mr. R.D. Brassington. Opening page statement. I ask for your consent and permission to speak openly, freely. To speak openly about my workplace experiences, some that involve our clients. To speak freely about the situations that you, I, and many others have been in before. Permission to talk about the things we have faced together in this collective manner, book or open space. Do you welcome these stories of workplace weirdness, tales of triumphs, whipses of the misdeeds even, but most of all to laugh with me, chuckle over the situations I found myself to be in. Laughing because you relate to the familiar workplace dilemma or giggling at a story you haven't heard of before. There is and is always full confidentiality. No names or direct locations, no indications, just stories to enjoy. This is best for everyone's identities, of course. It all started when I sat with a friend and I said I have a story I need to share. It's shocking, but true. I can't tell you who or where, but my friend, I swear, I need to tell someone who will understand, someone like you who will see the humor, can be truthful and honest without hesitation due to judgment, without restraint fearing your reaction to those inner thoughts. Hopefully by sharing with you all, it will help me heal and we can laugh it all away put into the memories of yesterday's workplace trauma. Tribute to my best mates. Thank you. Okay. So, I work with people in community services for years as a youth worker, mentor, case worker, facilitator, disability worker, personal caretaker, and anyone is interested in getting into the role. There are a few things they don't tell you, some things that need hearing, experiences needing to be shared. I have a tale or two, only for adults who can respect the comedic relief. I had planned a full event, a show for others to share their stories for comedic relief, celebrating other in the like me, telling stories from your own personal experiences working with people. A 2-hour production show, each person telling 1 or 2 comedic stories, 2 to 5 minutes on stage depending on enlistments. An opportunity to share stories with others, free of judgment, and the audience having a common relationship working with people. Some of the stories may be funny or unfortunate, but all uplifting and providing comedic relief. Share the joys, the highs, the stories of resilience, the persistence of being a top bloke, a top chick, maintaining that smiling face for hours working with special need clients or dodging glass jars of bolognese sauce, jam, and mayonnaise. Please join me on stage to share this story. As always, any persons in these stories has their confidentiality strictly maintained. Stand-up comedic acts from people on our team or within the industry. Those willing to stand up and share a funny story for all of us to cheer and support as we have similar experiences and laugh at the commonalities. Rules. Be respectful to all. No heckling or roasted put-downs. Be open, humorous, and comedic. On stage gets payment or meal voucher for 2 valued at $100, donated by the club or establishment. Everything starts somewhere, so I've started here in written form. Please enjoy. Yours truly, Ryan Dillon. Okay, so I work with people. Story 1. My first experience working with other people. For most of my childhood, my father was up early and home late. Always in a bright greeny yellow high visual singlet and dark blue work shorts working as a professional removals worker. The days when steel cap boots were a choice not a requirement. The neighbor's broken toe from falling piano evidence to make the right choice. For my father every day, ending with a bee in one hand and a bong in the other, a lamb chop and veg dinner. As fathers should, my father had taken me to work a few times, getting up in the darkness of the morning. So early the birds were still sleeping. I remember packing lunch and jumping in the truck to travel long distances and being in the cabin for hours. Every good removals worker needs a good wingman. The work requires an offsider for reversing guidance to lifting safely. The offsider needs to be reliable and motivated and have his wits about him due to the obvious dangers. Often I thought of myself to be that guy for my dad. But I was only a kid, and my father needed to pick up the real offsider on our way through. My father informs me as we drive over to pick him up from his location. As we arrive, seeing this guy on the grassy curbside, the brakes screech and let out a tosh from the air brakes. I look down to him from the passenger side window to see this guy chug down what was remaining of his Victoria Bitter Beer and throwing the bottle to the side before climbing up the truck door. "Hey Dad, this guy is chugging down a beer." I inform my father before the dude gets in. He opened the door. The raw smell of a drunken hangover hit me in the face like my father's breath last Saturday night, pungent. My father could tell he was still drunk from the night before and knew he had topped it off with the hair of a dog chugging down a VB for breakfast. But having no other assistance, this guy will have to do as the offsider for the day, as we only need him to unload and unpack once at the client's new place. Windows down. We'll finally get to the location. My father didn't even ask this dude to get out and give him guidance revising into the driveway. Something he always did, even if he was confident. An obvious sign of his distaste and lack of trust in the new guy. The guy slumps out the truck door, falling to his feet. I follow, climbing down and stretching my legs. My father checks logbooks while this guy opens up the truck. The first thing is done other than stink. I check out the wild, overgrown garden. Walking down the brick driveway. The house hiding in the shadow of wide foliage of leafy shades of green trees. The ground covered in native bush scrubs. My father jumps down from the truck, keys in hand, and proceeds to open the tall triangular roof, raised high from the dark brick house. My father makes his way up a small set of stairs across the veranda, the windows to his left framed white with large glass panels, reaching out and unlocking the dual glass sliding doors, making his way in and checking for squatters. Hello. Hello, hello. I followed him into the house. I stood in the lounge room while my father went through the house to the back door. The brown furry carpet and bright blue walls matched the wooden ceiling with large overhanging beams. It was a modern country vibe. The house check done, it's time to get started. My father and I passing this guy as he walking an exercise bike down the drive and into the house. "Oh, I better hang a piss before we get into it, hey boy," my father states with question in his tone. He turns and rushes past the other guy to get to the toilet inside. Getting up the veranda and into the house through the lounge room, down the hall to the toilet door. Just as he opens it, boom, smash, crash. The sound of breaking glass vibrates throughout the house and down the street. I rush back down the driveway towards the sound. My father and I coming to see the chaos at the same time. This guy's walk through the glass door with the exercise bike under his arm. The gals shatter into 1,000 pieces. The guy kneeling on the brown furry carpet, holding his head with pain. It's then we see blood coming out from between his fingers. "Towels, we need towels," my father screams out. I rush around the house to find nothing useful. As this guy bleeds onto the floor, go next door and ask to call an ambulance, my father instructs me. The next thing I remember is a white towel on this guy's head. As he kneed, the towel turned pink, and shortly after the ambulance turned up. My father took me home with the assistance of a workmate and excitedly told my mother the story, and was happy to crack a bee and have a hot one, leaving the load for tomorrow. What happened to that dude, nobody knew or wanted to tell me. Story 2. Being the paperboy with my best friend on a Sunday morning. Being the paperboy with my best friend on a Sunday morning, I had a knife held to my throat for the bum bag with $40 in loose coins and change inside midway through our Sunday run. Whistleblowing early Sunday morning, walking around the early times of western suburbia. We were loving life when two young junkie-looking fuckers made their way over. One held one hand behind his back. My instinct was to tell Nick to walk forward to them with both papers to see which one they wanted. As I thought they wanted neither, as they pushed past Nicholas with angry looks, aiming directly for me, holding the wheelbarrow with the bum bag over my shoulder. Within a few intense seconds, one held the knife to my throat, whispering threats as the other guy unclipped the bum bag, demanding a cigarette from two 10-year-old boys and then running off into the distance. Nick stood shocked, and I ran for help, sprinting to the closest house, to see old Betty Granny smoking a dairy sitting on her veranda stairs. "Yeah, I seen that. But sorry, I can't help. I don't have a working phone," as she drags again on her cigarette. We walked back to the news agency full of emotions. Feeling a sense of defeat, we informed the boss as soon as we got back, volunteering to call the police to tell them what happened and the boss's money back. After he explained what happened to the police over the phone, we were invited to the station to look at mugshots, Then after hammering up the phone, the boss started to blame us, saying we stashed the papers and took the money. Nick was witty and said bullshit. If we stole the money, where is it now? If we trashed the papers, why is the wheelbarrow still half full? Why would I risk my first job for a few gold coins to spend on what? Lollies. Nick gives a statement more than a line of questioning. Neither of us went back to that job. Even after the police station, the culprits were never found for the desperate robbery of two 10-year-old paper boys. Story 3. My first job working for people. Fired because I wasn't gay. Gaining a job in a little mall cafe after handing out resumes in my local town. The surf shop didn't call back because I stole a cap when I first moved up, and the local surf shop had cameras and was unsupervised. While the owner Ken went wakeboard in the Tuckley Twin Lakes just behind the shop on the main road of Tuckley. I get a call asking for an interview up at the little old mall that is stuck back in time and disrepair, rooms hidden behind locks and barricades. I couldn't help myself but to investigate what was on the other side of the doors and what was eager to see what was in the strange office spaces, as I could only see in through the small door window to see old display shelves and decaying office gear and odd walkways with long hallways. Yellow and brown pattern carpet leads the way to each dank, dark, untouched room with locked doors. A young teenager keen for adventure, now walking into the small cafe inside for an interview. So, sitting down with both owners, who are two middle-aged guys, one short gray and thick glasses, his business, and as I quickly came to realize the other guy is his life partner. The other owner, a taller and much thicker guy with a ponytail and the full gay tone with pointed mannerisms. Being proud, the short one of the two, Robert, gloated about being the gay couple that owns their own business, had a good reputation within the local and mostly elderly community. His partner Gavin made coffee for us while Robert got started with a casual interview. The conversation, basic questions at first with light-hearted humor breaking the tension. It was pleasant so far. Even though I didn't know how to make a coffee at the time, I could see myself working there. As the questions continued about school, math versus cash, availability, the interview was rounding up to the end. The little gay dude was hesitant to ask his final question as he picked his folder, and his partner Gavin returned the cups to the kitchen, a perfect time for Robert to ask whatever. The question was procrastinating behind his lips. Just a final question, he states. Yeah, what's that, I reply. He the says. What is your sexual preference? He asks me casually with a slight grin on his face. I reply with my wits and say, well, I have many friends. Some gay, others straight, some don't know what they want. Others mates would rather play sports or hide in the art room at lunch to play cards. So, well, I guess I know plenty of gay people, I stated. Knowing in all reality, I didn't know even one gay person at the time, and to be honest, knowing these dudes were homosexuals hiring a young fella like me, I was purposefully avoiding saying I'm into girls. I love meow meow. I'm a big fat fan of lady parts and the woman's attached to them. Why? Because I wanted to earn money, and I knew if he thought he had sexual opportunity and or ever just having a sexy young fella around for his wank bank fantasies, I needed the job, and yeah, fuck it, why not let them think I'm a potential gay cunt? Yeah, fuck it. I'm flamboyant enough with my frost tip hair and lip piercing. I was happy to lead the couple on with their own thoughts and fantasies, as long as I was employed and I didn't have to get on my knees. I'll shake my booty for some cash. In my tight jeans, but there's no way I'll be getting them off around this too, mate. My father warning me not to go to the Christmas party, as he knew their intentions and knew I was gullible to attending, thinking I would see snow and receive gifts. But as my father made obvious, the party will have blow a mounted pile of cocaine and numbing gel for your butthole to be fucked. That shit's probably the only way they can get it up with numb dicks. They'd fuck you in your butthole for hours. Probably after they have feed you alcohol and you've passed out, and gift would be waking up tied to wall and kept as what his name Gavin. Gavin's enslaved gimp, his personal love toy. Listen son, for those guys there is no Santa, just a jolly big Red Bull sack. I'm telling you, do not go, no matter what they promise you. So I declined their offer, leaving it until the day before to tell them I had family commitments come up. After this they were different towards me in a way, like I had disappointed them unintentionally somehow, and without my knowledge had begun to find reasons to grow a disliking towards me. They couldn't outright fire me without reason, as I had become a very good waiter and barista within the 6 months of working there. Routine became comfortable and the cash reliable. Until one day I came in with enthusiasm and lustful excitement, telling them about the sexy little beautiful pixie chick. I was smitten, bragging openly about how much I liked this girl named Kylie Jade, describing her in black lace petticoat, Doc Madden boots, and gothic makeup. She was a total babe, and I told them I hoped she would become my girlfriend. Finished the shift that day as normal, and on my way out said, "Okay guys, I'll see you both tomorrow," not thinking much of it. I got home, had a few bong and a hot shower. Then looking at the roster on the back of my closed doors, I realized I have tomorrow as a rusted day off. Sweet. I get a phone call the morning after my rusted day off. It was Gavin. He stated I was no longer needed, cold and flat out. What, why? I asked. He said it's because I didn't come in yesterday. Defending myself, I stated it was my rusted day off. He said in a stern, angry tone voice, "But you told us you would be coming in, and you didn't show up. Again what? For never even had a rusted day off or called in sick." "What do you mean?" I asked, flustered and confused. My father listening in the background. "Well, we don't need you to come in anymore." "Okay. So, I'm fired because I didn't come in on my day off?" I stated, "No, you told us you have a girlfriend and didn't show up when you said you would. So, yeah, we're letting you go." "Okay, bye now, bye." Beep, beep, beep. I stood there shocked, listening to a dial tone. After I hung up the handset, my father seen the look on my face and asked, "Why the long face? What's up? What was that about?" I told him I just got fired because I'm not gay. My father laughed in shock, as I did too, laughing with him for a moment in disbelief before getting mad and irritated, wanting to burn down the shop. But as my father said, people cloud die, and you'd be in jail for life getting YA bum clean, scrubbed out daily in the shower with soapy hard penis, and brushing your teeth with another man's cock as your toothbrush. So don't do that. Just know your father will take care of it, and I felt comfort trusting in my father's word. Story 4. Working with children. Working with children for 8 years, ages 5 to 12, from after-school care 5 days a week and 5 days of all-day activities during the holiday seasons. There were interesting times. Most of all was a small screaming children on the spectrum. One day particular, the small female child runs out from the game to the sideline, stomping out of a game in anger, pouting with her bottom lip, having a face posed for maximum empathy. When no one took notice of her stomping off in a fuss, and the game just kept on playing, her face opened up and let out a siren scream. The high-pitched tone would match that of Mariah Carey, the sound emanating mayhem. The brain discombobulated as the child used their superpower of a vocal high-pitched squeal that was penetrating the eardrums of anyone near, and those who come within her radios, dizzy on their knees with bleeding eardrums, feeling their head is about to explode. For a distance, observe and then make my approach with my back turned, not making eye contact. The superpower is dangerous. Slowly walking back towards the child, I get within 10 meters. Her vocals still wailing louder on my approach, giving warning for me to stay away. The game of soccer coming to a pause. From a group of children, out walks a child's twin sister, immune to the screeching sound. She walks through the noise with her shoulders back and head held high. A comic book moment of an action star. As she walked directly to her sister at the side fence, cutting through the nonsense of her sister's tantrum, walking up to her, stopping within a pace, raising her left hand to her sister's right shoulder, her eyes gazing to the group below, as she softly spoke her sister. Her siblings' breathing went deep and long, slowing to silence. She hummed tones to communicate. She settles enough to now look up and make eye contact. As their eyes came to meet, she places her other hand on her sister's shoulder and nods to confirm she is now all right, with a slap on her sister's baseball cap. The screamer child smiles and walks back on court like nothing ever happened, skipping away happy as Larry. Story 5. At another job. At other job more recent, I was quested to care for 5 children, all under 10, ranging from 2 to 9. The care hours was 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. split shift, retuning 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. The job description gave details of the duties, being to provide routine care and support for the children and give respite to the grandmother. when possible. The main purpose is to assist in school transportation. Well, when I found out first day on the job, I was lacking details and information to provide adequate care. Without the routine folder, there was nothing to give guidance on what the heck I was doing there. The grandmother was a tobacco-stained, worn-out old leather jacket, who didn't have the energy to deal with communication to me or the children, to exhort her to tell me or explain, or was in a huff because she presumed I knew everything in their routine, names and complexity of needs. The exhorted husky yelped to stop, 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 because that's not how you do it. Without instruction, I was stumbling my way through the first few hours pretending I knew what I was doing there, why I was there, eager to help and provide my assistance in any way. Even confirming the main purpose of transportation was lost in translation as the 2 older children are picked up each day and dropped off. The 3 younger children need transport to daycare 5 minutes down the road. Double trip in my small shitbod Subaru. So finally, weeks in, we get a routine working. Even allowing time for the older boy and I to indulge in his interest of marine life and riding his BMX bike as fast as he can. Weeks later, for nowhere, unknown to me, another worker turns up. Half an effort. Sally had a hard name to pronounce and Grandma couldn't remember it. Neither could I, and there was no roster, email, of any kind to tell us a name for the 5th time today. Just having another person in the mix can a disruption and turn things to chaos. One wanting attention, one scared of you running off crying. So many that another is squealing tantrum grunts through a bitten mild bottle while swinging between the pillars of the balcony above screaming, "No, but hold on, there's still 2 more. One playing like a normal child until the youngest comes in and bunks her on the head with the doll she'd been dragging around for the last fortnight. Then all hell is on. Like a pack of wild monkeys echoing calls through the jungle, they all know where the other is and what they are doing. The oldest comes thunder barging from out back to upstairs. Thud, 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 thud up to the games room and stands in the doorway with hand to hip and a mean squinting glare. A twitch turn of the upper lip and a flick of the hair. How? What's going on here? The children fall silent, too scared to answer. Within a minute, play resumes as normal. Quitting time came when I was left to care for the 2-year-old on an home swing in the backyard, not suitable for toddlers. But Grandma wanted me to put it together anyway. Swinging the child after it was built in celebration, she asked, grunted to be lifted into the seat, and indicated to push her by the back as you normally would, rejecting other comfort of support, hand held to back on holding the ropes. The kid wanted to be pushed higher. So higher we go. I'm surprised she holding on so well, to be honest, smiling and bouncing well, going back and forth. Still the danger was there. So, I'm pushing this small kid on a swing, the kid crying out to go higher. Push harder. The swing set rocking out of the dirt. The adrenaline addiction toddler refuses to halt. Can't just stop on the open seat. Every second required full attention. Meanwhile, while I'm fighting the swings from coming out and slowing a disgruntled 2-year-old, the 2 youngest, whips off his nappy while we are all outside. Not only does he throw the nappy over the next door fence, he likes doing that so much he went looking for whatever else he could find to start throwing over the fence, running but naked towards rocks and sticks pile in the corner of the yard. Looking the other worker, I see her sitting there clamming ignorance to the situation. I look to Nan, who is sucking down yet another cigarette. The kid managed to get 3 rock over the fence between 2 stick be tossed over the fence. Again a husky yelled to stop interrupts the activity for a moment before laughter, and the search for more rocks and sticks continues. Suddenly one kid wants the bike the other is on. Buggies are cheeping because another kid has their hand in the cage they were just told to stay away from. Next door came over later in the day and complained that the flying rocks and sticks could have hurt her dog. The smell of pot lingering out from under the room belonging to the middle-aged man still living with his now elderly mother, that is caring for his sister children. Once he went running to Grandma because I had used her special spoon for a cup of coffee. He was rude to the children, and I would never emerge from the dungeon of smoky doom. Red-eyed and angry, like a ginger troll. The Phytholbong. Fuck that. I'd had enough. I was done. Story 6. Working with the teenage hormone monsters. Just another teenage dirtbag baby. Just like you. Working as an in-school youth mentor for young men. Small groups for conversations about life and the questions teens have about its complexities. Meeting for an hour once a week, only new students to the school or back from suspension would have to wait and join a new group in the next term, benefiting the bonding experience of the group, trusting in routine and attendance of known participants. 1 year of boys was to close for my own comfort, being all over each other like kids on heat in a dark cinema, but 2 or more boys in broad daylight with a room full of classmates who don't spectate or even pay attention. The surrounding boys had non-reactive faces as their classmates were one step away from making out, from rubbing each other's inner thigh to caressing the back of the head and ticketing the hairline of their fellow male student. The behavior was weird, and it made me uncomfortable watching these teen boys in school touching each other like a romantic partner, totally normalizing the homosexuality and inability to keep their hands off one another, acting as if it was totally normal to comfort your friend this way. The consistent reminder for these boys to stop, hands off, legs off, don't lick his face, keep your personal space was taxing and exhorting. The behavior endless, as it was normalized among several schools with this current age of boys in that year. The traditional handshake on entry stopped after COVID. Sad, but thank the fucking Lord for that. Sweetie teenage boys' hands came straight from lunch, handball, and a fresh touch of the nuts after squeezing a zit, as I had to point out to one young man, as he released his hand from within his pants to extend it out ready to shake my hand. Stop. No way, man. What? He had no idea or was just a meathead. Dude, do you know what you just done? Huh. Looking back to the door. What? What happened? He asked with a dopey smile on his pimple-infested pizza face. Really, mate? Really? Huh. What? Slowly retracting his hand. Do you want to reenact coming into the classroom just now, or should I just tell you what you just did? Oh, I don't know, just tell me, I guess. He says, here, I'll show you, warning to the group I'm doing it for real. But dude, you just walked in doing this. One hand deep down in your pants, having a good feel around looking for fleas, touching your balls, with your other hand holding your phone up to your face, and then you make eye contact with me still fondling your nutsack. Click your phone off and put in your pocket, and then and only then did you pull your greasy, slimed-up hand fresh from your rust nuts to offer me a handshake. Oh mate, thanks for the effort, but nah, no thanks. Just needed to point that out. Story 7. The Houdini Kid. Working in a youth refuge where no visitors were allowed every day or night, but somehow this kid managed to get them in the house and into her room with attempts to have the boy stay the night in the same bed. The Houdini Kid was making teenage boys appear from thin air. The little petite female teenage dirtbag somehow managed to have these teen boys popping into her room through perimeter alarms and locked doors, boys one at a time appearing from nowhere. Found and be in her room hiding under her bed. What the heck, she snuck in a different dude again. How? I'm not naive and I've been doing this job for some time. Never have I been this bewildered as to how she managed to do it again and again. I can only presume the rate of success was the influence to repeat the attempt of sneaking people in. To describe an incident in full, I had heard a male voice vibrating through the wall when I used the staff bathroom, her bedroom being next door. The male's voice was obvious, so I informed my college and we agreed for a room search. At first she denies entry, I'm naked then. We gave her 30 seconds to get decent, denied entry and becoming heightened, swearing at us to fuck off cunts. Another 30 seconds, we have to call the police. Unlawful entry of an unknown person's trespassing. Go on then, cunts. Call the fucking police. You dogs. The other worker and I make our way back into the office and support each other to call the police. She comes to the door like a demon-possessed. Fuck you, how dare you ever accuse me of having someone in my room? Bring ring, police. Fire ambulance. Police, my co-worker states. Fuck, you're a cunt. Fucking dogs. Really? You're calling the police. My coworker explains the situation. She puts on the act of innocence. The phone call to the police continues. She suddenly changes her tune into guilt of accusation. I can't believe you think I'm lying, etc. Guilt trip Maximus, so much so her acting skills had on the border of feeling wrong. Ha, this little fucker. Finally giving into the search and saying, fine, okay, just fucking look now. Go on, you'll see you're wrong, dickhead. Going into her sitting on the far end of the bed, legs over the side, her feet pressing the blanket to the floor. Captain Obvious. I lift the blanket, bend down to look under the small space under the double bed. At first I see white shorts, a knee, a blue shirt. Then two eyes creep out from the darkness. The mullet head of a teenage male forms from the silhouette. Seeing him with a giggle in my voice, I say, "Ha, busted mate," he replies. "Oh, shit, can you help me out?" Lifting the bed to let him out. He asks, "Am I in trouble?" I stated, "No man, you just need to leave. This isn't a place for visitors to sleep. It's a business place. But I've got nowhere else to go." He says, "Okay, mate. Still you can't stay here." He leaves with kindness of non-arrest. Mind you, the kid that snuck him and held her head in shame, before turning it back on us with disgust and hatred. Within minutes she hissed, fussed, spewed profanities, left the house, slamming the front door on her way out. Story 8. Get the holy water. This kid has more than childhood trauma going. They are possessed by the devil. Never had I worked with a client that had been so tormented and traumatized as a child that the soul of the innocent was now protected by 1,000 demons behind 7 different barriers of iron gates, each demonic, dominating a different face. All in each casting fire of profanities, insults towards your mother, the threat to harm the things you love, and destroy work ego that until now brought you joy. Your ability to engage squashed by jagged javelins to fuck off cunt. The effort to leave the confined office space was bombarded by canopied rock of burning oil to back off and get back into the fucking office, causing any influence of heroism forced into retreat. Seasons of experience, years on the field. The demon comes changing with intentions of harm. Get the holy water. Quickly get it out from your pocket and shout out loud, "Back, ye demon, you force from hell. Back in the name of Jesus. Back in the name of Mother Mary. Back in the name of Lord God. Archangel, I call upon thee, assist us in this battle to triumph aegis this evil. Free this child of the darkness she has come to welcome, for she did not know the love of God is greater than any evil clamming to protect them and you." Splash. Free this child. Splash. Fuck right off. Splash. You get fucked and fuck off right back to where you belong. Splash. Splash. Spash. By the word of the Almighty, splash, we command you all and any evil to leave. God, his angels cast you out. The light of heaven protect these children, all his children, and this house and the ground it stands upon. Go or gone. That same client Superman punched me in the back of the head for refusing and get into the car with them, instantly concussed. I had even forgot I spoke with my supervisor after the event, realizing these when I called them 3 days after the debrief. And they stated we already have, and we spoke for over an hour. Finding out the latest studies on concussion in first aid training, I am concerned about mental change and our deterioration that is now proven as a possible long-term effect. Story 9. Working with a teenage toddler, trapped this way by his parental caretakers. Like something from the Twilight Zone, an episode straight from the Outer Limits, a living X-Files experience. Uncle Fester in an all-buddy pink jumpsuit, this poo-throwing, tantrum-fitting, nappy-wearing teenager was being held in place of innocence, a position of perpetual childhood interaction, ensuring that if their son remains a toddler no matter his age, it would prevent the eventual need for placement into full-time assisted living and medicated care. Never in my work had I been requested to pin down and hold a client until they self-regulated, warned to keep my distance to prevent being punched in the face, grabbed by the genitals, pulled in by your t-shirt to be bitten on the face or neck region, keep away from his finger to prevent him peeling back your flesh with his jagged fingernails. This kid is ground zero for the zombie apocalypses. They refused to provide me with any safety equipment to protect myself and my groin, so I gave my resignation and ghosted them on the last day. Story 10. The oldest person I worked with had begun to lose their memory and forgot where we were driving to whilst on the freeway and wanted to make her way back home immediately. Okay, so now if I tell you about the oldest person I worked with, it should round all this up well. Working a disability company, there came a time when I had to transport an elderly woman to a son's house. A 60-minute drive turned into a 3-hour drive. After we leave, we are talking just fine as she sat in the passage seat, driving onto the freeway traveling towards Newcastle. Halfway, the freeway had roadworks and had changed dramatically since a last visit to her son. She became confused and disorientated. Then her dementia kicked in, forgetting who I am and where we are going. She became frightened and heightened quickly, jumping at me as we drove down the freeway at 90 to 100. Luckily, her seatbelt was still on. She grabs the steering wheel with both hands, pulling it towards her, jolting the car left, forcing the car off the road. The sharp swerve had me praying to God to take care of my children. I then regained control of the wheel, gripping it tightly, with her biting at me and slapping me. I left my left arm in protection and found a safe place to pull over, wait, reintroduce myself and where we are going, and then several minutes later, she would have another episode and would have to pull over again, happening 3 more times before we got to our destination. During and after, I was calling management and complaining about the lack of information, almost leading to end-of-life danger, and I was never warned. Well, that job didn't last any longer than that. Story 11. Workplace Stalker. Working at the local cinema at the time. During the holiday season, I had met a girl. We hit it off and became deeply in love. However, with each love story comes a villain, and this vindictive stalker had turned from associated friend to full-on suspected wannabe or just about to be serial killer. As it turns out, during our social gatherings, this dude had developed a crush on my now current girlfriend Amanda. As Amanda and I were consistently together, we begun to notice this guy weasel inserting himself in our daily lives, inviting himself to arrive unannounced at any time, showing up wherever we just happened to be. At first it was seen as coincidence. Then we begun to notice the randomness was not so random, being a group of 4. Chris, my best mate, his girlfriend Hannah, Amanda, and myself Dylan. We has made plans to go for a couple's picnic. The conversation held with only us 4 in the room. No text message, no letter, no evidence that we had made the plan for this day, location, or time. And so on the day we meet at Chris's house and leave from there, going up to the water tower and taking the bush track out to the lookout. We set up the rug and food, set it down and begun to eat. Suddenly the right tingles, vibrating with a warning, as what I can only describe as a silent tone and a magnetic rush pulses to pull my attention, to look to my right, look into the bushland, beyond the shrubs. Can you see it? Something out of color. Can you see it? Over there, moving in the distance. All 4 of us pause, still, breathless, watching. This black patch of material starts to break through the bush, coming closer. We are all shocked and in wonder. As this thing breaks through the bush, coming closer, we whisper among each other to start running or pack up. Whatever this thing is, it's coming closer, and as look up again, what it was begun to take form. Our visual on it clearer as it got closer. We all at once figured out what this thing was. It was Weasel. We sighed with relief at first. Then within the same breath that we let out, so we started to wonder, how did he know we are here? How did he find us? What is he doing here? That same feeling of warning, danger, became overwhelming. He stood before us and announced himself. Hi, I'm he. By this time we had all stayed up thinking we were about to be attacked by a Bigfoot. That feeling didn't go away. So I said, hey man, fancy seeing you up here. Hey dude, if you wouldn't mind looking after the food for a few minutes. We were going to go for a walk, but didn't want to leave the food while we take a quick photo at the lookout. If that's okay, but I want to be in the photo, he stated. We will get a group photo after. We just want to get a couple's photo each and come back, I stated. He agreed. We left for the lookout but turned right along the trail and rushed to car, and we took off as fast as we could down the dirt track and then down the mountain, leaving him and our picnic behind. After that, we'd done our best to shut him out our lives, but this dude was relentless. He begun to turn up to my workplace, trying to catch me after work, and twice, and did so wanting to fight me for my girlfriend. The first time it happened, I got a call for Amanda, stating Weasel was outside the cinema, making his way to where she was sitting waiting for me to finish work. So rushed down to the exit doors and let her in. This dude went crazy and begun to bang on the big glass windows. Not getting any attention, he chose to climb the building, scaling up the pillars, reaching up to the guttering, and walking the small ledge of and continued to bang on the second-story glass frame, screaming out, "Come on, cunt," repeatedly. I informed the manager of the attempted intruder and called the police. However, by the time they got there, he was long gone, and I was left to explain the situation to my manager and the police. Another time, I was walking home from work late night, and this motherfucker jumped out from a bush and attempted to ambush me, swinging random punches and bouncing around a skinny lad kangaroo. As he swings a punch, I duck, and we but trip down the gutter behind me, losing my footing and giving him the upper hand as I land on my back with him coming towards me with a grin of murder. Control. I could see he was thinking I was defeated as he came to stand over me. My instinct had me flick my legs up and over, kicking him in the face, and rolling over backwards to come back onto my feet and regain my footing, and I stood with my fist closed and shaping up to protect myself from a punch. The blow never came as Weasel pranced around, jumping and flexing the best he could. I looked through my fist, observing, wanting for my opportunity to strike. I weaved left-right. Then suddenly to my right, two bright lights drowned out my sight and can't see anything but light. It was the police, thankfully. Weasel took off running as fast as he could, and was left to explain what had just happened, and the police seemed intolerant to my situation. This previous interaction with the villain of the story gave me great insight to how this dude fights, or most importantly can't fight, and is a poser, a show-off, without skill, with no hand-to-hand combat training, and at this time thinks of me to be a clumsy, unskilled victim who is unable to defend himself in a crisis. However, on that day I had a 12-hour shift, and my legs were as like jelly, my mind tired and overworked. My reaction was to observe and use defense if required. As to our next interaction, I will ensure I am at full strength and have knowledge of your arrival, knowing this would be the next time I was public. We next collided on New Year's Eve. Amanda, Chris, Hannah, and myself went down to the local fireworks to celebrate the New Year's. But as it happened in the mountains, it happened again, a warning call, a tone of magnetic danger pulling me turn around. As I did, Chris informed me he could see Weasel in the crowd, and he was making his way up behind us. I turned to look and felt a sudden strike to the right side of my face, smashing into my cheekbone and instantly swelling as to which I couldn't see from that eye. I cover up, raising my hands to protect myself, waiting for a second blow. However, it didn't come, and again I looked through my closed fist to see the villain Weasel pronouncing around, jumping around, rolling his fist. I take my stance and focus on him parading around. He looks to his mates who at the time stood to the side, bike riders in the hundreds, all come to watch Weasel beat up some random guy that was me. However, as he looked to his mates and announced, "Watch this," as he took an open wide swing with his right hand towards my head, I easily ducked under, weaved to the left, came up, turning to grab his head with my left arm, wrapped him up tightly into a headlock as I used my weight to bring down forward. As I continually punched him in the face, as hard and as many times as I could, as I dropped to one knee and continued to pound his face with glee, anger, enjoyment, relief. I hear the voice of a father scream, "There are children here." Then that guy or another bystander tripped Weasel out from under my arm and threw him toward a tin fence. With a smash he landed. As his head vanished from under my arm, I turned to see him being projected across the grass to the fence. Before he landed with a smash, I turned away to see the 100 bikers spectating with shock faces. As I picked my hat, grabbed my girl and headed home, bedding into the crowd, until a defeated Weasel and 1,000 bikers came to my home address that same night and trashed every bit of the outside trying make their way in. And as always on this part of the coast, the police took forever, and by the time they arrived, all the troublemakers have all gone. Story 12. The Holiday Park Host. Okay, so I am not in any way a fat shammer. If anything, I like a well-rounded gal, thick at the thighs and big at the bust. A mid-film shallow hal is my alter ego, seeing the beauty within most people. However, within this dude was nothing but a hungry pig who would unknowingly trample over you to get to the free food on offer. This guy was so fat that when I sat in the travel buggy next to him, I slid onto his lap as the buggy tilted sideways with his weight. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure life for this guy was difficult, but this dude was so fat, I had to Google the word for being a person being bigger than obese. The word is bariatric. The dude was so fat that when showing me how to clean the toilet in the cubicle, I could not see from either side, from above or below, what he was doing. He had to back out and turn sideways to get out of the cubicle door frame. This was so fat that his job was to go around and source the free food from the visiting food vans whenever they were open, delegating the workload to myself while he went on the hunt for free food. As always, he could only complain once the free food was consumed and always ended the night with a large order to Hungry Wolf's Pizza, where he would triple his toppings and eat it in total privet. Either that, or he was making love to it each time. I had to quit. Story 13. Cocaine Hover Machine. Okay, so when you're a holiday host cleaning hotels' rooms, you're sometime lucky to find guests discarded and wanted food, drinks, alcohol. Generally, any personal belongings were logged and if not claimed went out as gifts or giveaways. However, during the room cleans, it's not just food or alcohol. Sometimes you find drugs, bags of direct drugs people didn't want to travel back home with, or didn't finish due to the quantity and or quality. Hence, on this day of cleaning, one of the crew found a white ball of powder clumped together in a sandwich bag. One of the girls identifies it straight away as coke. Without hesitation, she scooped out a chunk, pulled out a credit card and racked that shit up. As she snorted and raised head back, she was like, "Oh yeah, that's the real stuff coming back down," handing me the rolled up $5 note and says, "Here, have a go." So thinking, yeah, fuck it, why not? I lined that fucker up, and as she did, I snorted that fucking line hard and fast, getting it right up and in there. Right. No, not right. Little did I know about the potent numbing agent within the white substance. Suddenly my throat stopped working and went instantly numb. I tried to wash it down with water but couldn't swallow. My throat wouldn't work and begun to choke. Choking on water I couldn't swallow. I got over the snubness quickly and felt a little buzz, and with that the girl that offered me a line is now offering me to come back to her place after work and help her get rid of the bag. So I agreed, thinking I was going to get laid after a coke-infested all-nighter, but once at her place later that night she poured out the bag in its entirety and like a vacuum she begun to chop in and hover that shit up. Woof, sniff, hoof, crank, crank, chop, chop, sniff, 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 hoof, hoof. I couldn't keep up even if I tried. Before long I realized her idea of back to my place was completely different to mine. When all was lost, she stated she had some weed stashed somewhere, and after she found it and we rolled a joint, she laid back on the bed with her tights still on, reaches up an underpillow, and pulls out her phone. Then pressed to call her long-distance sugar daddy, and begun to talk dirty while stood listening and wondering, maybe even waiting for an indication this was a fantasy of hers. But the opportunity was evaded as I believe she agreed to herself for whatever this was to remain a fantasy. Story 14. The metal grinder to the face. Dude. Watching people work, you can sometime see their stupidity will lead to an accident before you in your lower paying position can voice up and intervene. It happens. You knew it would. But still you're shocked. The ghastly sight of a grinder hitting your workmate's face, not stopping and continuing to sink into his face, quick and unsightly. Unforgettable, shocking incident. Yet you can't look away. You brace all the mooses in your body. You watch as moment pass. Then the grinder falls the ground below, still spinning. Your eyes raise from the grounded grinder to your workmate's face. A streak of white flesh is opened of his face, gouging at his nose, cutting sideways and inwards. The wound open, white. Then the rush of blood came, rushing to his face, the opened wound flushed with fresh blood that poured out relentlessly, the blood spouting with pulsing of the heart. As I and other come to his aid, I unplug his grinder and follow, as is rushed to first aid and taken away in an ambulance. It was only the next day the boss came out with face guards and requested that no one remove the safety guard from their grinder, and as they should have been trained never ever grind backwards towards the face or any other part of the body, anyone seen misusing the grinders will be instantly dismissed. Story 15. Working at paintball and the owner's son thinking he is king shit, walking around the place knowing it all and being above everyone else. There came a time when I wanted a break from social, community, youth, and disability work, and after a recent conversation with one of my flatmates, the suggestion to call the paintball place and ask if they were looking for staff at this time. I had played many times and had been to the same facility many times, so I knew my way around a little and picked up the routine quickly. Get them in, get them out, wash clean, and set it all up again. The owners had their 2 children who are adults in their mid-20s come and help out. The daughter was kind and very cute, whereas the brother more used to parental ownership as his own playground. from shooting non-expecting employees with the paintball guns from the shadows, surprise attach, or sneak up on a stealth mission. Out of all these times the employee was unarmed and defenses against an air-powered paintball gun shooting paintballs at 275 miles per hour. The shit hurts, and for those who claim it doesn't. I tell you now, they are full of shit. They welt up like ringworm infestations and turn black and blue over the few weeks they take to fade away. No way you're meeting the love of your life with a round welt bruised ring on your neck, bad hawker or zombie attach. Or do you have something else going on? Yes, I work at a paintball facility. Anyway, what started as a passing joke when I seen the young fella up at the head desk with his shirt off. As I approached him, he made some stupid statement about waiting on myself and the others. As he stood there leaning on the bench with his shirt off, I made the remark back. Well, it was nice of you to wait here with your shirt off. It looks like a slab of Velcro I want to pull on. To my understanding, at this point we were joking and having a bit of a banter at the end of the day. However, when I stood in front of this fucker, he unknowingly to me had folder and bent a hard rubber rod used to clean out the barrels, bent back in a pose, ready to flick it directly at my testicles. That motherfucker was aiming for my balls, and luckily my spider sense kicked and I turned at the moment he let go. The rod flicked out hitting my leg and goddamn that thing hit hard. Ever I was like, okay dude, it was just comment about your chest, eh? But it wasn't about the comment, was it? It was about him maintaining dominance. Straight up, I said, dude, you're aiming for my balls. He just smirked back at me without comment, and it was at that moment I know. I couldn't interact with this dude anymore. As my spider sense was telling the obvious, this kid was looking for conflict to expert his authority and power over someone older and working under his parents' employment. Then one day he's there with his friends playing on the field privately, of course. So after they finished playing around, they came up to the gun shed to help themselves to reload, refill tanks, and load up for the next round. At this time, I am bending down packing paint tubes into boxes in a rush for the next group in attendance to use. As I am doing so, bent down aware of his intentions, he walked up behind me with that same fucking rubber pole bent and flexed back. He came up from behind me and quickly bent down, releasing the rod and flicking it up and under my left butt cheek while I had both hands full. The smack slapped hard and was only a centimeter away from hitting my nutsack and exploding my left nut. I believe that kind of pressure would have caused real permanent long-lasting damage. However, as I said, the rod hit very close to my testicles. But it did not connect with my nutsack. What it did connect with was a pre-existing perianal boil that had been there for a year and consistently flares up due to being on a waiting list for an operation. I know the kid descent know this, but this is a reminder of the type of dumbass absurdities working with young men. This thought was already in my mind, having in my surroundings, and as soon as he flicked me with that rod again and again with the intentions to get me right the nutsack, I stood up with words already leaving my mouth. I knew to keep composed and assertive, and what I said is as follows loudly and clearly so I wasn't to be mistaken, misunderstood, or mistreated further. I fully understand this bully's expressing his thumb in front of his friends on his home turf, so with him still lingering behind me, and his friends listening, I didn't stutter or hesitate when I stood to say, yo, that was way too close to hitting me in the nuts. Look, just because I'm 43 years old doesn't mean I don't want to have kids in the future. You doing dumb shit like that could take that away from me. Also, just to remind you, this is my workplace, and you slapping on the ass could be considered sexual harassment. The young dickhead says he'll give you sexual harassment, and made an actin to do something else. I faced him eye to eye, and stated I'm not your best mate, looking at him standing my ground until he moved away, and then I turned away also and went on with business. Until the end of the day, when the manager wanted to speak to me about a client missing a card, it was speaking at me and neglected to ask any questions about the situation that had her thinking I had given away free paintballs to some random because of this card the client holds. Anyway, as she dribbled on just like I did just now, the pain from my groin started to overcome me. The impact had caused a rupture of the pre-existing wound, and the pressure was building up, and the swelling had moved further up into the body and closer to my crouch. I thought this fucker has finally got me in the nutsack all right, and found myself trotting into the emergency department a few days later, begging the nurse to help get the swelling down, or to be released by operation. I was begging for the pain to stop. After 6 hours of waiting, I went in surgery and a 2-day recovery visit in hospital, and I am still trying to go back to living my life as normal as I can, including getting back into disability work as their long-term empowerment and job security, and work with less intentions to hurt people. But that also did work out, as you will find out in the story below. Story 16. On my first day of the job, I was doing a buddy shift, shadowing the other work and taking in what I could learn on the job, including reading the information book about the client. This is all you need to know in it: likes, dislikes, foods, routines. Note extra. The book said to help clam the 19-year-old disability client during transport to apply pressure to his toes. And so I did when he showed me his bare foot. By the time I went from the pink toe to the big toe, I look up to see the 19-year-old kid had his penis out and was jerking his gherkin. That's right, he was playing with himself inappropriately. I was shocked, pulled away, and screamed for assistance. 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 After the shift ended, I went home, took a deep breath, and filled in the online incident report and hit the submit button. I had a phone the following day, stating I needed to renew my police check, as it needs to be within 3 months of validation, and my current one was now 9 months old. The cost to renew was at $59, money that I didn't have just returning back to work. In a way, I think they knew that, and at the end of that week I received and stating I would no longer have a position as I am not suitable for the job. This news via email came on the same day as my 43rd birthday. So a little sarcastic cheer, as I already knew I wouldn't be returning after that, somewhat dismissed the situation. I found myself to be in on that first day back at work in the disability sector. The stories continue. Written by Ryan Dylan Brassington.